guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's tutorial, we'll be looking at how to create a swirl pocket that comes with a flap. This pocket is usually seen in blazers and also at the back of pants. So if you want to know how I created the swirl pocket, please stick around and we'll get right into that. To create your Welt pocket with flap, you have to determine how long you want your pocket to be. For the purpose of this tutorial, I'll be working with a length of 5.5 inches. I cut out two pieces of fabric to serve for my flap, and this is 5.5 inches, and I added 1 inch for my sewing allowance, making it a total of 6.5 inches. Whatever you cut out for your flap must correspond with what you marked on your fabric, because the flap has to be the same length as the fabric. That's why I have 5.5 plus 1 inch for my sewing allowance, making it a total of 6.5. And the length I'm working with is 4.5, so I have 6.5 by 4.5 for my flap. I also cut out two strips of fabric for my welts, and this measures 7.5 inches by 1.5 inches. I also have two pieces of fabric for my pocket bag, and this measures 7.5 inches by 7 inches. So first off, I have to sew my flap. So the right side facing right side, I'll sew on 1/2 inch on both sides. I'm marking my 1/2 inch sewing allowance, and I'm going to map out the shape I want to work with. So this is the shape I'm working with for my flap. You can give it whatever shape you desire to. You can make it a square, you can make the edges sharp, so it's just up to you, whatever shape you want to give it. So this is the shape I'll be working with for my flap. So I'll go ahead to sew this. So I'm just going to trim and notch the edges. Then I'll go ahead to iron it out, and I'll go ahead to press this open. I'll press open my seam allowance, then I'll turn it over and give it a good press. So I've gone ahead to press my flap, and it's looking all nice, smooth and well did. So on this line I marked on my pocket, I'll be coming in by 1/2 inch on both sides, and at the 1/2 inch mark I'm going to make like a little triangle here on both sides. When we're going to cut, we'll cut and cut at this angle. This will enable it to relax properly. I already folded this into two and gave it a good press. So I'm just going to place it right on the line I marked initially for the length of my pocket. And note, I'm working on the upper part of my fabric. I'm placing it this way, making sure it's evenly distributed on the two sides. I have excess here and I have excess here. Then I'll get my flap and I'll also place it right on it. So I'm going to sew this down with 0.25 inches. I'm going to sew on 0.25 inches from the beginning of my flap to the end of my flap. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place the other welt still on that mark. I'm going to mark where the flap started from and where it ended. This will serve as a guide when making my stitch because it has to correspond. So now I'm going to stitch on 0.25 inches just like we did before. The next thing to do, I'm going to cut along this line that we made earlier, this initial line we made. I'm going to cut along the line, and when we get to this point to mark 1/2 inch, I'm going to follow the line of the angle. This will help the pocket relax properly after turning it. I'm going to cut. When I get to this point I marked, I'm going to follow the angle and cut. Please make sure not to exceed where the flap ended. Come over here and do the same thing. So after cutting, I'm going to turn it inside. I'm going to turn to the wrong side, turn the corners, the edges to the wrong side. Just watch what I'm doing. After turning it in, this is what we have. This is what the inside looks like. I'm going to bring this so it will relax properly. So I'm going to take this to the ironing table and give it a good press so everything will relax properly. I'm done ironing it, and this is what it looks like. This is the front and this is what it looks like at the other side. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to flip it this way. Then that little triangle we cut out earlier, I'm going to stitch along the line just to secure it. I'm going to do this on both sides. So the next thing I'll do, I'll sew on my pocket bag. So I'm going to be stitching one to the bottom welt while I'll be stitching the other to the upper part of the welt. Then when we're done, we're going to sew our pocket bag together, and that's that. So let me do that. I'm just flipping the welt this way and I'm going to stitch it together. So you have to be careful when stitching so you don't stitch your fabric, so you don't stitch the main dress. I'm stitching just the welt to the pocket bag. So I'm going to do this carefully. I'm being careful so I don't stitch the main dress to it. Carefully. I'm stitching it all the way to the end. The same thing I did for the bottom, I'm doing to the top. Stitching it to the top of the welt. So now I'm just going to go ahead and sew my pocket bags together. Just going to sew them together, after which I'll trim off the excess. So I'm just chalking the line I'll follow when sewing. So I'll go ahead to stitch it together. So we are done. That's our welt pocket with a flap. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel for more amazing and helpful tutorials. Also leave a comment in the comment section and share this video with your friends. Thank you.